Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and in tonight's post-game stream, we're going to be breaking down game number 41 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season. Losing this one here tonight to the Detroit Red Wings 4-2. The Leafs have now lost 3 in a row. They've now lost 3 games in a row in which you had a lead and you blew a lead. First and foremost, a 3-1 lead against the New York Islanders. Then a 3-0 lead against the Colorado Avalanche. And then here tonight, a 2-1 lead over the Detroit Red Wings. And yet somehow, some way, you find a way to blow those games 3 consecutive times here. There's a lot we'll get into in tonight's stream. If people want to call in, give their thoughts on what happened tonight, your thoughts on this Leafs team in general, your thoughts on if this is Sheldon Keefe's last game with the Toronto Maple Leafs, please send me a message, whether it's on Twitter, if it's on Discord, if it's on Instagram, whatever the easiest way is for you to go about this. You can send me a message. I'll send you guys the link. You guys can call in here and give me your thoughts. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this game? What are your thoughts on the Leafs over the last little while, the last stretch? Does Sheldon Keefe keep his job? What do you do with Ilya Samsonov? Was his performance here good enough tonight? I'm seeing people in the chat already getting ready to go here. You're welcome, Six. Happy to give updates on what's going on with this team. That's what we're here for. We're here to break things down. So we'll get into all of that here tonight, but I'll put up a poll in the chat to get you guys rocking here to get started. Is this Sheldon Keefe's last game? Send that in there. Look, there's a lot that we can get into in regards to specifically what went on here tonight, and we will throughout the course of this game. First thing I'm going to kind of jump to is Ilya Samsonov. It's unfortunate the way that this one played out, especially for him, for his mentals. I was not really the biggest fan. I didn't expect him to come up. I didn't really think it was probably the greatest idea for him to be coming up. They thought he had a good week down with the AHL team, with the Marlies there, but he looked pretty solid here tonight to start. I'm thinking, all right, you know what? You've got a team that's on a back-to-back here. Is this the best opportunity to put the guy in and see what he's got? Well, I guess in some ways you do kind of have to throw him to the wolves and say, all right, are you going to be starting goaltender? Are you going to be a guy who's an NHL caliber guy that can go in there on tough situations or in a back-to-back? And then on top of that, which we'll get to here, the Detroit Red Wings, they had to push back this game to 7:30, and they had to push it to 7:50 because the weather was holding them back from being able to get here and get to the rink on time. This Red Wings team showed up about an hour before the game here tonight. I don't give a shit about back-to-back. I don't care about Samsonov in net. I don't care about changing lines or whatever. You have to come here and you have to perform. This Red Wings team has been struggling over the last little while. You have now just come off of 2 not great games in which you blew leads in both of them. Your team is effectively called out by your coach. Thank God he actually finally did that and stood by what he was saying and stood by the fact that he was taking a more harsh approach at these guys. And now you have an opportunity to come out and say, all right, you know what? We are the guys who are getting paid $11 million and we deserve to be paid this amount of money and show up here tonight. And this whole team as a whole here just underperformed. They didn't show up. You have a lead. You can't find a way to close it out. Like, this is embarrassing. Don't give me back-to-back 3 games in 4 nights. Fuck that. Are you a Stanley Cup contending team that is serious and is going to actually compete night in, night out, and make a serious push and try to prove to people, let alone outside of the room, but even in your own room, that you're a team that's worthy and capable of taking the next step? Are you going to be able to do that? Because right now, this team feels like the most unserious team. And I don't know if it's the fact that they don't give a shit about the regular season. All they're caring about is getting to playoffs, and then that's where it's going to be. But if these clowns think that they can just turn it on in the playoffs, you haven't learned from 7 years. 7 years of doing the same thing over and over and over again. This team is a pretender. They are a pretender. To actually take it to the next level, you do what Colorado did last night. You show up in Toronto. They come out flying. Colorado didn't even play a bad first period. The Leafs just played one of the best first periods we've seen in a long time. Colorado's down 3-0. 3-0 after the first period, 20 minutes of play. They could have folded it. They could have said, forget it. We're out of here. We got other games we have to play. We got other games we have to get to. And instead, they go pedal to the metal, climb all the way back, and score 5 consecutive goals to beat you in your own barn on a Saturday night. Pathetic. Pathetic. Like, this is a pathetic group from top to bottom as it is right now. It is embarrassing to have to watch this and hear people talk about the fact that they still think that they can be contenders. This is not a Stanley Cup contending team. Let's just be real. They are not. I like the fact that they go into Anaheim, San Jose, and find ways to win those games. That's amazing. But then continue this. Continue to play. Find ways to string together 60 minutes. Like Gord talked about when he calls in. Gord talks about it every time. 60 minutes. Can you play 60 minutes? This team didn't, and they haven't now. They're not piecing together a full game, and it's costing them. It is truly costing them. If you guys are here right now and you have not already, please hit that like button here on the stream. Subscribe here to the channel. Turn on notifications, all that kind of stuff. I do appreciate all the support that we've continued to get. We're over 1,000 subscribers now. We're pushing up to 2,000. I want to get there before playoffs. So if you guys are watching and you haven't already, hit the like button here. We'll crank things up. It gets more people into the stream, gets more people watching, gets more eyes to the videos, all that stuff. I apologize for asking so much for you guys to do this, but obviously, starting at ground zero and having to build back up again, it's going to take a little bit longer, and you guys, all the help that you can give, I do appreciate. So like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. It does help support and continue to grow things, but yeah, we'll continue to break down tonight's game. And again, if people do want to call in, I want to hear, because this is one of those games here tonight where I feel like people are going to have opinions. I feel like you should have opinions on this, whether it's about the coach, whether it's about the managers or the organization or the captain. I don't care. I want to hear it. I don't care if it's positive. I don't care if it's negative. I want to hear it. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So message me on Twitter at ZackPhill, ZackPhill, as well. If you're on Instagram, if that's easier for you, you can message me there at Zack Phillips, ZackPhillips _ I want to hear. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. I want to hear how you feel about this game tonight, because truly, I think that this is just pathetic. This is who they are. This is a sad group that is not capable of taking things to the next step. Not capable of getting to the next level. I feel like we are just wasting time at this point. Basically, like, we might as well just fast forward to the playoffs, get us out of here in 7 games, finish it off, 1 round, Florida Panthers, thanks for coming, and we're done. Like, the way that this team is playing right now, the way that these guys are so inconsistent at when and how often they're going to show up, I have no faith in them. I really don't. I have told you guys numerous times that basically the only way that you can get there with it is if you're going to be at a point where you can see it on a consistent basis. Is the effort there? Is the energy there? Is the intensity there? It's not. It's just not. They don't bring it every single night. As Donnie does dishes there saying, the Leafs want Florida. Yeah, it's a sad state right now with where these guys are at, because this is also the same team that we've seen for 7 years. 7 years. We're into year 8 now of the exact same thing, night in, night out. This is who they are. And 6, call in. Like, call into the show. You're Mr. Positivity here. You think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, despite the fact that they don't show intensity. They don't show effort. Tavares, the captain, who's making $11 million, has now not been great for the past couple of weeks. Your Mitch Marner hadn't been great either. I'm glad he gets some points here tonight. Glad he gets a goal, but he also had not been great. Like, you're basically looking at Matthews and hoping that he can get himself into a position where he can score 70 goals this season. But outside of that, it's like Matthews, Nylander, those guys are the stories. Riley, the stories. Those are the positive ones. There's a whole lot of other stuff in the middle that's either just fine, it's gray zone, that's okay, and then there's a whole lot of negative stuff going on with this team. It's just not being great, and I cannot understand how we can sit here and genuinely feel some type of positivity when it's the same team that we've watched year in, year out in regards to how they play, their character, their identity, the lack of leadership that it feels like we get. There's no push from the top. Like, you look at this team, you're looking at them thinking, they're struggling right now. You know what? They could really use a jump. Who the fuck on this team that's worth something in the eyes of the entire group is going to be the guy to provide that jump? Like, it doesn't feel like if you go out there and you're Jake McCabe throwing a big hit, fires up the top 4, fires up the top 6, whatever. It's just lacking. It's lacking all the way through. It feels like the guys who need to buy in and need to do it are the ones in the top 4, and they just won't do it. They just won't do it. They cannot get themselves to buy in to being a legitimate hockey team that plays the right way every single night for 60 minutes. They won't do it, and it starts at the top. It starts with them there. I don't know if it's them just choosing not to. I don't know if it's accountability that they won't get into from Sheldon Keefe. He won't bring it down, but they just won't do it. This is a game you had to win here tonight. You are now 1 game above 500. 1 game above 500. 1 game. You're supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender, and you've not proven anything. And I know people will look and say, well, Florida last year or Columbus when they beat Tampa, or like these teams can win. You can get miracles. St. Louis, the one year they were last. The difference is that this team had expectations going in. They had legitimate expectations. They're already not meeting them. And then on top of that, it's the same thing that we've seen every year. So why? What would make you think that there's going to be some material change that happens? I just cannot wrap my head around the idea that that could even be a possibility. It's just does not feel like it. It's realistic at all. It's extremely frustrating, not gonna lie. Super chats here. We'll get to a bunch of these. I want to answer them all. If you guys super chat, I obviously do rip through them, so I appreciate that as well. If you're watching right now, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications. Turn it on. Let's get to it. Hit that like button, subscribe. We got a bunch of super chats. Let's go. CD Corn, for those of you who are new or don't know what CD Corn is all about, he gives us the post-game temperature soup checks, tells us where the soup is at. CD here tonight, not even opening a can of broth tonight. Ice cold. CD, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. I would agree. This is, you can't even open the can, buddy. It's cold. It's frozen. You're trying to get the can opener going. It's not even working. Everything's shut down. Your hands are cold. There's a little bit of rust maybe on that can opener. No dice. Appreciate the super chat. Another super chat here. Michael, thank you for the super chat there, Michael. Greatly appreciate it as always. I do appreciate all the super chats that you guys continue to send in here, so thank you very much. But Michael says, Zach, my critique of Dubas throughout the past few years has been driven by the present outcomes that we are observing. Big chance they miss the playoffs. I mean, I don't know if they miss the playoffs or not. Like, this team just has enough talent on it to probably put together points, figure things out. I from that standpoint, like, I feel like they could get it done. I don't know. Maybe they just become a dejected group that just falls off the face of the earth. Maybe they just lose faith in Keefe. I don't know, but yeah, I would say that you're probably right in terms of the other things we were talking about, like your critiques of Dubas. I know where you've been out on that, the type of team that he built, the intensity, the energy that they had. I think you are seeing it to fruition. I know a lot of people were not happy with Tree Living, the way that you look at the team going into the season. It was basically the same team as last year that Dubas had built. So yeah, it's not like he changed a lot. It's not like he had the ability to change a lot. It's kind of tough. He was handcuffed to an extent there. So yeah, it's tough. Super chat. Jeff McKay, thank you for the super chat. Jeff says, boo to this baby shit soft team. Enjoy one round of playoffs. Maybe they can talk about willpower again. You know what? It's pretty funny. Yeah, boo to them. Like it's just soft. It's soft mentally, it's soft physically, and it starts at the top there. It really starts at the top. It's a sad state. Another super chat. Michael, thank you for the super chat here. Michael says, Dubas' decisions made regarding player drafting, trading, selection of goaltenders, along with his propensity for making coaching changes, have all contributed to the team's current predicament. Well, I mean, Michael, he did make a change. He obviously fired Babcock. I don't think the drafting is, like, terrible. It's not like it's been great, obviously. Like, it's been somewhat few and far between for the guys that he's had who have jumped up and actually been on this team or made impacts on this team, whatever, being in the lineup or being able to be NHL players. So, okay, if that's the point, then sure. But selection of goaltenders, I mean, I will say in his defense, like, I'm in this position now where I look at this team and I look at goaltenders around the NHL. I don't think the goalies are really that big of an issue. Like, yeah, Samsonov stinks right now, but goalies are up and down. Goalies are hard to hit on. They have good years. They have bad years. Look at Markstrom. Markstrom was a Vezina caliber goaltender in Vancouver. He went to Calgary. He was a Vezina caliber goaltender there for like 3 years or 2 years or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden he had one stinker year last year. And everyone's like, well, he sucks. Why'd you pay him that money? And it's like, well, it's actually probably a good amount of money to pay him because he's a very, very good goaltender. You can have a bad year. And it's like pitchers in the MLB. You have a bad year and all of a sudden it looks a billion times worse because of some certain dollar amount that's tied to your name. But so slight disagree there. I don't know. And then coaching, I don't know. And yeah, trading, whatever. I think just a little too late there with some of that. But another super chat. Max. Our guy Max Entius Decimus. Max, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated there as well. Max says, please fire Keefe. I can't anymore of these lines, man. All right. We're going to get into this now. If you guys disagree, you feel free to disagree. I saw this tweet maybe 5 minutes ago come up on my phone. I'm probably going to get fairly heated here, so this is a warning ahead to you guys where we're about to head to. I don't know if you're people who are not going to be happy with getting frustrated with some of this stuff, but I just have to. Tweeted out as a joke, if you follow me on Twitter, I tweeted out the photo of the waffles on the ice. When Leafs fans used to throw waffles. This was a reply to the tweet that I put out. Wow, that accountability demotion of lines really went well. That might be one of the stupidest fucking responses I've ever seen to any of this. Honestly. People fucking crying about Mitch Marner being put down onto the third line. You have absolutely lost your goddamn minds. The softness of people in this organization or fans of this organization to not think that that's the right move is absolutely insane. Insane. You have to be out of your mind, participation trophy ass fan, to think that that's not the right move. Oh, poor Mitchie. I love him so much because he stick handles and goes through his legs. Fuck that. You don't show up. You haven't been that good this year. You haven't been in a position where you've been a dominant player consistently and living up to your $10.93 million contract. There are consequences that are deserve to be handed out. I don't care if it's Mitch, Austin, Nylander, Tavares. I don't care. Last night, Keefe, I was kind of confused because coming into the second period, he started taking away Tavares minutes, and I thought Tavares was actually pretty good in the first. But that being said, that's the captain of your team making $11 million. And then you know what he did after the game? He called him out, and he said he was not good enough. That second line was not good enough. He had to move Nylander up to the first line because he's watching. I was sitting there kind of like thinking, you know what? I don't think the second line's been that bad. And then I started thinking about it more and more. And it was like, you know what? Actually, if you watch me do that watch along again, I was basically just sitting there thinking about how good Nylander was playing, so it probably just masked what was going on with the rest of the line. And if you're behind the bench, you're the coach of that, you're going to see it. You're going to realize those things. So you know what? Probably a fair play. You're probably fine to do that. I don't think that that's an issue. There needs to be accountability held on this team, and putting David Kampf making $2 million as your fourth line center in the press box is not what's going to do it. It's just not. That is a pathetic attempt at sending a message to your team. You are punishing the wrong guy. You think Austin Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares look down at Kampf and go, oh, he got put in the box. Maybe I'm next. Maybe I'm the guy who's going to get punished next. Or I have to step up my game because that could be me. No, that situation was insane to think that that would send a message to anyone else. Stupid. And then it very, very, very clearly didn't, because the next night, the team stunk the joint out. And now here we are, 2 weeks later, and you're watching your fucking $11 million player who's wearing the C not show up night in, night out? Clearly, no message sent there. At some point, there has to be accountability. Why do you think this team is not taking steps to get further and further along and advance and have success in the playoffs? Why do you think they can't break through and take that next step to have some type of success? Why? Because there's a candy-ass approach from the top down within this organization. You won't trade anybody because, these guys, we want them together. We want them here. We want them to do it together. Stay in Toronto. Fuck that. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. You got to trade guys. Washington, trades guys. Pittsburgh, trades guys. Colorado, trades guys. They're not afraid to make moves just because you want to keep everyone happy and holding hands and ring around the rosy. It's not about that. It's not about that. You gotta make some type of changes. Hand some consequences out. Okay, you're not going to trade guys. That's fine. Are you going to get rid of the coach? Are you going to make the change there? Nope, they don't. Keefe, run it back. Run it back. Run it back. Run it back. Shit stretch. You're not seeing any changes in terms of how they play, their mentality. Nothing. Keep the coach. Okay. Keep the coach then. Well, then you'd imagine the coach will hand out consequences. Take shifts away from guys. Finally, he does. Start sending a message. And by the way, in regards to that comment about, that really worked tonight, Mitch Marner scored a fucking goal. He gets sent down to the third line. He scores. Beautiful play, by the way. I think he pretty much showed up here tonight. I think he played a pretty good game. Bertuzzi. Brilliant pass to Marner. Beautiful goal. They scored. Now go to the first line. Who went up to the first line? William Nylander, because he's been playing really well and was rewarded with getting to go to the first line. And Pontus Holmberg, who also, by the way, is playing really well and goes up to the first line. Who the fuck else scored then? Pontus Holmberg on the first line with a really good hockey play. Gets down in there, wins the forecheck, takes a shoulder check over as he's going in, takes a look, sees Matthews coming in, goes down, makes a pass back to Matthews. Matthews goes in the corner battle, puck back to the point. Holmberg circles around, Riley, shot pass through, Holmberg, high tip, goal. To say, that worked really well. They played well. Those lines played well. They both scored as well. So that is a stupid comment for someone who's just going to be upset because of the fact that their favorite player, Lil Mitchie Poo, went down to the third line. That soft-ass mindset, soft-ass mentality is how this whole team operates. It's how they play. It's how they function. It's how they go through 60-minute games where you don't show up for 40 of 60 minutes. That is who they are. That is why this team does not fucking win. That is why they lose in the first round year after year after year after year. And then you finally win one and they went, job here is done. We won the round. And then you go on and get your face punched in. You got your face punched in for 5 games by the Florida Panthers. They folded. It is a soft team with a soft mindset. And in all honesty, I I will listen to anyone's opinions. I will answer them, but if I disagree, I will flat out disagree. Like I just can't. I can't read something like that and just let that go by because I think that is an idiotic take. I think that's an idiotic approach to the game, an approach to how to handle these guys. You don't need to be coming out here with kid gloves on to handle guys who are 26, 27, 28 years old, playing in their 7th, 8th year in the NHL, 14th year, 13th year, whatever it is in the NHL, and making upwards of $10 million a year. Why the hell would you come out and put kid gloves on to handle these guys? That is insane. And then on top of that, if you're going to make some comment like that, at least have some fucking awareness of what went on in the game if you're going to make some ridiculous statement like that. Because Marner scored. That line played decently well tonight. Pontus Holmberg scored. That line played decently well tonight. There was some missing stuff from some of the other guys. The defense did not play that great. There was some massive brain cramps by that D-core that basically just shut down and allowed Detroit a couple of opportunities in which they capitalize on, by the way. McCabe, terrible decision behind his own net there, trying to make that play out where it's a soft play, skating towards his own D partner. Then Perron gets the puck. Tavares, by the way, loses a foot race to David Perron. David Perron can't keep up with him. Perron makes a nice pass back to Larkin. Larkin scores from a low angle, not so great shooting percentage, spot on the ice. That's one of the goals. The second one, whatever. Morgan Rielly, broken stick. Like, what's he supposed to do there? Hauls ass back, tries to get back and make the play. Samsonov also crazy attempt at the save there. I'm not going to blame the D on that one. It's a fluke play. It's a bad play. It is what it is. The final goal, though, is the third goal is terrible giveaway by Liljegren, and the puck ends up in the back of your net. Like, guys, what are we talking about here? You know, what are we talking about? Max, traditionally, I'm not mad at your super chat either, by the way. I appreciate the super chat as well, but traditionally, I would agree with you. I think like the line changing and how frequently it happens is asinine. I think going into tonight's game, the lineup changes, like whatever, as messed up as they might have been, they're probably fine to have. They're probably fine to go into that direction. Like, I don't really care. It is what it is. But, yeah, that ahead of the game, I was okay with. In-game changes where he just goes nuts and can't come to some type of conclusion. That's where it's frustrating. And, yeah, I'm done with him as well here, too. I think that answers that. I'm going to do this. I told you guys, every 50, 100, 150, you guys know, we do the smelling salts. We get them out on the stream. We got 54 likes here on the stream now. 54. Thank you to everyone who hit the like button. We got 216 people watching. You got 216 people watching. We could get this thing to 200 likes here tonight. I don't see why we don't. Hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications. Let's get to 2,000. Let's get to 200 likes here tonight. I'm going to challenge you guys. Thanks so much for the support. 50 likes. Thank you. All right. You guys are psychopaths for that. I don't know how or why this ever came to be a thing, but it's been a year and a half now of doing this, and you guys seem to love it. So there you go. Hit the like button. Thank you. We have a bunch more super chats to get to. I'm trying to read everything in the chat. You guys are buzzing right now. There's a lot going on, so I'll try to read it as best we go. But to everyone who super chatted, I'm not going to miss any of these. It may take a little bit of time to get through, but we'll get there. We'll get to all of them. I promise I will not miss a single super chat here. Another super chat. Michael, thank you for the super chat here. Michael says, the dummy changes his strategies during trade deadlines was too late. Tree is now left with no viable alternative but to initiate a quick fine-tune once the contracts of players such as 91 and 16 ends. Yeah, like I've talked about this a lot. I think that part of the problem was that the the trades that were made by Dubas, I think were probably the right trades. I was always happy with the trades. I never really had a problem with them, but it's probably just too little too late, where it's like, or not too little, but like it's just too late, where you're looking going, okay, we need identity. We need to be mean. We need to be tough. We need to block shots. We need to kill penalties, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get Ryan O'Reilly and McCabe and Achari, and we're going to add to this and be aggressive and be this playoff hard out team that doesn't give up on plays, whatever. That seemed to be like what you needed from the beginning of the year. That's who you needed to be from the jump. And just trying to add it with 30 games left in the season, I think is tough. I think it puts it into a spot where now you're kind of trying to force everyone else to adapt to them. They're trying to adapt to you, like all the way through. It just becomes a little bit messy there. And I think it becomes hard to kind of navigate for the team, where it's not necessarily can you jump in and learn systems and stuff or play with these guys. It's the actual identity of the team that becomes confusing, and they kind of lose sight of that and never really got there. So I would agree with those. That's kind of why I was impressed with what Tree Living did in the offseason. He goes out and brings in Bertuzzi and Domi, and whether people like it or not, Reeves comes in here. He obviously made a very conscious effort to be like, this is who we're going to be. This is how we're going to play. Benoit comes in. Legason comes in. I think that those were great signings from that standpoint. Yeah, obviously Reeves is a mess. It is what it is. And then on top of that, the Klingberg one doesn't work out, but it's gone. That money's gone. He tried to make some changes. He does make some changes. You can see some of the identity seeping in, but I'm not going to be at a point where I could buy into this team until I see where the top guys buy in. Are the top guys going to buy in? And I'm not talking about Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares going out there and fighting, but like, you know what? Maybe John Tavares needs to go out there and fight, because you're looking for leadership from the top. You're looking for guys to set the tone. I continue to talk about the fact that I want those guys to step up and buy into that level of play, buy into that style of play. They just don't. They just won't do it. So maybe it's got to be the guy who's putting up 80 points and not the guy who's going to put up 60 goals, 70 goals. I want to see these guys get mad, get angry, go out there and do something mean. Like, you can kind of tell when Nylander gets pissed off and he goes and has like a little bit of an angry shift, but his angry shift is not the same as like Nathan McKinnon angry shift. Last night we're watching McKinnon. He gets bumped into in the corner and he's like, I'm gonna rip that guy's fucking head off, fuck him. And you can see him chasing the guys down. You can see him skating angrily. You can see him like ripping through the ice basically with his skates. He looks like he hates the ground when he's skating. Like, this guy looks so intense, and it's just you never see that from these top guys right now, and I need to see that. Just think, you know what, they could be different. They could be different. I liked some of the moves Tree Living made. I just don't think it's going to be different. As for these contracts coming off the books, I don't know. Like, we can say that all we want. Everyone assumes Tavares is just going to come back and on some cheaper deal. How cheap is that deal going to be? What's the contract, or what's the cap going to be at around the league? How much are you going to be able to fit in? Have you made other trades? Like, you've got some time here before that Tavares contract does come up. Marner, what the hell do you do there? Because it feels like Marner's going to ask for $20 billion a year, because that's just what him and his camp do. And if you get to that point, then maybe you have to try to trade him ahead of time. Maybe you have to go into the summer, be prepared for him to walk, and use that money that he was going to ask and do something else with it, which would kind of suck, because losing a player like that for nothing would be really tough. But what can you do? What can you do? A few more super chats here. Max, I saw you hint at this one earlier. I hadn't read it yet because it was in a heater, but here we go. Max, in my mind, I want to see the Leafs win the division and go on a run. In their minds, they just want crazy contracts to fund their purse collection. Max, I would say that that's pretty, like, it feels pretty accurate. And it's not even like, okay, obviously Stanley Cup, it's like you got to win the Stanley Cup. We're all looking for them to win the Stanley Cup. That's the point of where these guys are at. It's like they just feel disinterested. Like, what happened in that series against Florida is they basically just folded. They pretty much just said, forget it, I'm out of here. Like, we've played too long. We won our round. We'll get our cookies, get our pat on the back. I got my $11 million, $12 million, and I'm going to go golf because I don't get paid for the playoffs. I get paid for the regular season. Like, there's no more money and paychecks coming in the playoffs, and then they're just gone. They just collapse. It's like James Harden in the playoffs, right? He just stinks because it's like, yeah, I just play like to get to there, and then that's it. That's what I'm paid for. I want to see compete. I want to see playing for division. I want to see winning more than one round. Like, you want to see them at least go to conference finals here, even if they're not going to go to the Stanley Cup finals or not going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, win more than one round, please. Dear God, please find a way. 19 likes away from 100 here on the stream tonight. Please hit that like button if you're watching right now and you haven't already. 223 people. Thank you so much to everyone who's watching. Thanks to everyone who's subscribed here. I appreciate the support, but let's continue to get that up. A couple more super chats to get to. Max with another super chat. Thank you, Max. Max. Thank you for the super chat. Max says, Sharman should put Keefe on package because he is soft AF. Max Entius Decimus. I would agree. I was happy to see it happen here tonight. I was happy to see it happen in media after, but it feels like this is like a one-off thing. This feels more like a desperation move than anything. Like, the amount of people who texted me or messaged me about the fact that Keefe was making these changes, it's like people are like, yeah, this is good or whatever. It's a wake up to the team to say, hey, you're not playing well. You're not going to just get rewarded with minutes. But it's like, this doesn't feel like who he is. It feels like he almost maybe didn't want to do this. Like, a minute left. Tavares did not have a good game here tonight. You're trailing by a goal, and John Tavares is out on the ice. And I'm not saying, like, I have no personal issue with Tavares or anything like that, but putting him out on the ice with a minute left when he's not done anything, I don't understand some of that. Like, why'd you get to that point? Why did he have to go out there then? You said he played terrible the night before. I don't think he played that well here tonight. He hasn't played that well over the last couple of weeks. Like, why are we just handing these guys these opportunities? I cannot understand that. I cannot understand that. I don't know. Is this who he is? It feels like it's not. Like, it feels like he's trying to be something he isn't, and change the opinions of people about who he is and what he's capable of doing. It just feels that way. Another super chat here. Jeff McKay, thank you again for the super chat there. Jeff, appreciate it. Jeff says, but Zach, they have all the records and made money. Who needs a cup? Besides, it's hard here in Toronto. People are mean to them. Jeff, I'm glad that I know you well enough to know that you're at least being sarcastic there, because if that was not, I probably would have been pretty pissed with that. But I know you're being sarcastic, so that's a fair point. I mean, look at this team. Look at the fan reactions every time. Look at the fact that we come here and this team's one game above 500, and it's like, well, Mitch got 600 tonight. It's like, fucking who cares? Like, yeah, it's nice to see. I'm happy to it's cool to get to see these guys who are like who are going to go down as some of the great Leafs in terms of points. But these are not, and have not, these just have not been competitive in the way that some of those old guys that we watched and are at the tops of these lists were. And I think here in Toronto, it just doesn't appeal to the Toronto fans in the same way, based on what we got to see with Clark and, or like, I say we loosely, but because obviously we know my age, but like Clark, Gilmore, people talking about Sittler and Sundin, who I did get to watch, Domi, Tucker, like those were beloved teams that went on and won a couple of series and went to like conference finals or close to I'm pretty sure conference finals and stuff. Like they did have some level of success, some degree of success. And yeah, maybe they weren't putting up these points that are climbing the ladder of the franchise to the same extent that these guys are. Like, you're looking at Willie here for another 8 years. You know how high up he's going to be in this Leafs all-time points list by the time he's done, if he's still here for the remainder of his contract. Like, if he stays here, he's going to be one of the highest point getting Leafs of all time. Marner's the fastest in Leaf history to get to 600 points. Like, these things are amazing. And Matthews is going to jump in and probably be the Leafs all-time goal scorer by the time his career is done here as well. Like, all of that, it's just like, it feels like that's what's on top of their minds more than anything. It feels like they want these points, they get these points, and then outside of that, it doesn't feel like everything else bothers them enough or matters to them enough. It just really doesn't. They are constantly satisfied with personal records. That's what it feels like. And maybe that's just from a fan standpoint, and maybe I'm wrong there, but that's the vibe I think everyone gets. I just cannot understand this team with the way that they respond to these things, the way that they play some of these out. I don't get it. I really don't, guys. I don't know. 12 more likes here to get to 100. 12 more. I appreciate all the super chats. I got through all of those. There's a lot of stuff here in the chat. I have some other notes from tonight's game, so I'm going to get to those. Also, I see here, like, on top of the screen, the names, the subscribers, and the latest super chat. Those things extend past the screen. I'll fix that. I just realized that was the case right now. I apologize. I'll fix that going forward, but please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. 12 more to get to 100. Let's get there. I want to get that tonight. Thank you. I want to hit 200 likes here because we've got over 200, about 250 people watching. So there's no reason we can't hit 200, but at least 100, I think, right, guys? I think we can get that. Again, if people want to call into the show here tonight, please send me a message. I'm happy to have people call in. I'm happy to hear people's thoughts. I want to know what you guys think. If you disagree with anything I've said, if you agree, why? What is it that you agree about? Can this team do anything? What is it that you need to see? Like, I go back to this again and again and again and again, and it's like, I think that this team probably loves winning. I think that they love scoring points. They love scoring goals. I don't think they like losing, but it's very evident that they don't hate losing. And I think to take to the next step, to take it to the next degree, the next level, you have to hate losing. You just have to hate losing because that's what these top players do. Like, these guys lose and they live with it. And, like, yeah, you're talking about Samsonov. You don't want him to do that. You don't want your goaltender in that position having that happen. But you can have that up with the top guys as long as they're handling it the right way and as long as they navigate these things properly. And I think some of that comes with having the right mindset to begin with. And if you don't have that mindset, then maybe you're just not the guy that's going to be a piece that helps this team. You're just not going to be a piece that helps this team win. So that's first and foremost. And then second is, like, if you don't hate losing and you're the best players on the team, I don't understand what kind of message that sends down through the rest of the team. I don't understand how that pushes out to everyone else, where it's like, those guys make $11 million and they don't hate losing. Like, I know people are going to get pissed off about it or whatever, but, like, what do you think happens when the Pittsburgh Penguins lose a game and they go in the room after and you've got Sidney Crosby there and he is pissed? What do you think happens when you go in the room And like we make jokes or whatever about the interviews that McDavid does in the media where they ask him these stupid questions all the time after losses, and he gives these answers that are pretty dry or pretty like cut and paste, but you can tell he wants to rip the reporter's head off. Aiden, I see that question. I will answer that. I see your question. He wants to rip reporters' heads off. McKinnon, you go in that room, I would be terrified. You know what that does? It's not like it makes you scared of your teammate, but it makes you want to fight a little harder, because that guy who's making that much money, who's that much more important than you are in reality of how the pecking order of the team goes, then you look at that guy and you go, holy shit, if he acts that way, if he cares that much and he's making that much money and he's that important, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I give everything I have, every single shift, every single time I touch the ice, every single time I go out there for practice, for warm-ups, for the game? Why wouldn't I step up and take it that seriously? Because Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, these guys hate losing. They hate losing. Stamkos, Hedman, Point, hate losing. Kucherov, hate losing. You can tell. Matthew Tkachuk hates losing. It does not feel like this Leafs team hates losing. And I saw them say, like, yeah, Shorzy says it. Craig Harrison said Shorzy says it. Why do you not hate losing? Like, they don't hate losing enough. They don't. Okay, here's the question. Also, super chat here first. I will answer this, so thank you. Max Entius Decimus. Legend in the chat. Legend in the old chat, legend in the new chat. I appreciate this. Thank you very much. Max says, this super chat goes out to the best hockey chat ever. Max, thank you. I appreciate the support as always, and you guys are the best hockey chat ever. There's a reason that this show is still going and some of the other post games are shut down, but we're still rocking here on Leafs Digest. So thank you all for the support. Let's continue to push this thing up. Let's get to that 2,000 subscriber mark. Let's get to 300 viewers here tonight. Let's get to 200 likes, all that good stuff. The more you guys like the stream, the more you guys pump out likes on here, the more people get brought into the chat, the more this continues to grow. So thank you guys. I know I'm obviously asking you to help me do some of the work. I get it. I'm sorry that I keep asking. We did have to start right at zero to start this season again after what we built up before. So I apologize. At some point here, I'll shut up and I'll stop asking you guys to like, subscribe, all that stuff. You'll just know to do it. But for now, until we get to that point, please hit the like button, subscribe here on the channel. It means a lot. I appreciate it. And Max, thank you. You guys are the best hockey chat on the internet. So thank you guys very much. Okay, Aiden asked me this question. I saw it, the first one, go by. I didn't ignore it, Aiden. I want to answer this one. Partially, I know some people are going to be pissed off. Before I can answer your question, though, we did just hit 100 likes on the stream here tonight. Thank you very much to everyone who liked the stream. You guys are some sickos. Smelling salts. I got to buy some new ones here after this. These are still pretty strong, but like I don't want to get to the point where they're weak and then I'm still on the stream doing them. So I'm trying to get ahead of it and going to order a mass batch of smelling salts. But thanks, everyone. 100. Appreciate it. All right. Whew, okay. Aiden Simpson. Good question here. Chat, I want you guys to answer this as well. I'll answer first. And then I want to hear where you guys are at. I'll answer and react to what you guys have thought here as well. The Leafs need a Kawhi Leonard type player, but an NHL player that will help them get over the hump. You see where I'm coming, Zack? I do. And I think that this comes via trade. Because you're looking for a guy to come into your organization who is, as I had kind of discussed, someone who maybe hates losing. And I feel like the one thing that I've always had an idea of, I've always kind of thought would push this team over the hump and help them further, help them get further in the playoffs, help them change identity and character, would be like a true number one defenseman. I don't mean that in a negative way to Morgan Rielly, but here's what I'll say. Morgan Rielly is very clearly a offensive defenseman. He just is. Like, we can't deny that that's what he is. That's who he is. He's an offensive defenseman. You probably need someone more along the lines of, God, Cale Makar is, as much as he's offensive defenseman, a very good defensive defenseman as well. Victor Hedman, Drew Doughty when they won the Cup, Pietrangelo, both times he's won the Cup now. Like, those types of guys are these dogs who can play 25 to 30 minutes a night. And I do think Rielly can. I think he will, and he should. He played incredible in the playoffs last year. He's probably been one of the most consistent players on the Leafs this season. I think he's been very, very good here. But I just think you're missing that defensive side of things. And I think you pair him with one of those guys who's a stud defensively, like Makar gets Devon Toews. Like, you pair those two guys together, you've got a legitimate stud defensive group. And I think that adding that guy in, if he's got the right mindset, if he's got the idea of, like, what it takes to win, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be, because he's been there, because he's done that. Literally just because they are a we must win at all costs type of player, type of guy. That's who you need. And I feel like you just can't get that guy if you have all five of these guys right now. I don't think you need to get rid of Rielly. I think Craig is pretty close to where we're probably at here. Craig says Rielly is really good. The problem is after him, it's a steep drop off for the other five D men. I would agree. Like, I think that the tiers that go down, it gets pretty egregious as it moves. Like, Giordano was not good last night. He gets sad here tonight. Connor Timmins was not really good here tonight, I don't think. Jake McCabe had a tough night. And I think putting Jake McCabe in an exposed position with a lot of minutes against some tough matchups can be tough when it comes to the playoffs. Maybe he needs to be a 5th, 6th pairing guy and move down there on a team that wins a cup. Maybe not in 82 games for a team that's going to make the playoffs, but like a team to win the cup, I don't know if that's... I don't know. I just don't know. And guys, like, I'm not saying one player wins the Stanley Cup. I really am not. But I think that one player can change the way people, like, the team responds and reacts to things and what the culture in that room could be. I think that that's realistic. But yeah, I don't know. I would pretty much agree though. I would pretty much agree. This team is one game above 500 right now, guys. You're getting ready to go into the All-Star game, and this team is one game above 500. One game above 500. This is supposed to be a Stanley Cup contending team. Like, if I pull up the NHL standings right now and take a look at this, you're 6 points back of Florida. You have one game in hand. You're 9 points back of the Bruins. You've got one game in hand there. You're 1 point ahead of the Red Wings, who beat you here tonight, and effectively that was a 4-point game then. Aiden, thank you very much for the support as well. I appreciate that. But you're 1 game ahead or 1 point ahead of them. You've got 2 games in hand on Detroit, okay, but that was 4 points here tonight. You're 1 point ahead of Tampa Bay. You've got 3 games in hand on them, but still, like, you're on a 3-game losing streak. Six and a third. They're 21, 12, and 8. That's 1 game above 500, dude. 1 game above 500. You have lost 20 games. You have won 21. And you've got these teams around you who are real close there. Obviously, Ottawa, Columbus, Buffalo, they're not... Like, Buffalo could even go on a run. You never know. They're at 40 points right now. The Leafs are at 50. And Buffalo, I mean, the Leafs do have 2 games in hand. But you keep playing like this here tonight through this next stretch in January, there's a good chance you're shit out of luck by the All-Star game. I'm also just looking at this right now, like 10, 9, and 2 at home. As someone said, check the home record. 10, 9, and 2. 11, 3, and 6 on the road. That's insane. Well, 6, if it's about points then, buddy, they're fucking not doing that great here either, because they're 1 point above those teams that I just mentioned. Detroit, Tampa, they're 2 points ahead of the Islanders. They're 3 points ahead of the Devils. They're 4 points ahead of the Penguins. So if that's what it's about, then your head's not on straight looking at the point column either. There's something going on when you're reading those, because when it's about wins, it's oh, well, they're in overtime, so it's fine. 21, 12, and 8. And then when it's about points, now all of a sudden, now there's still only 1 ahead of these teams. They're 2 ahead of some of the other teams. Very, very catchable at this point. So I think no matter how you want to shake this one, it's just at some point you got to realize that you can't put lipstick on a pig and tell it it's pretty. Like, this is a 500 team. This is an average team. And points, wins, not there. Like, they're just not there. 21, 12, and 8. 21, 12, and 8. 50 points. Not that good. Super chat. Phenom, thank you for the super chat here. I appreciate it. Michael's Phenom says, Larkin was taking a few picks after Willie. Zack, how much different would the Leafs be if those players were swapped? Did the Leafs make a mistake? No, I don't think so. I mean, what you're looking for from Nylander, or from that guy in that pick, I think you got it right. Like, I don't think Larkin is the guy you're looking at going like, oh, why didn't they draft him instead? Why did they draft Willie and not him? Like, I don't think so. I don't think that that's a mistake. I appreciate the super chat, but I don't think they're... I understand from like, oh, Larkin from a leadership standpoint or a character standpoint, that's fine. But from what he can bring from a point production team, the impact we've seen Nylander make, yeah, I don't think that that's a mistake. Like, let's look at that draft, see where we're at. Also, I see a lot of people, new people here into the chat. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Thanks to everyone who just joined here. Appreciate the support. Hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel. Let's get this thing up. Like, look at Nylander. Ehlers after him. That's the one people look at. Maybe if you're trying to talk about a dog, but like injuries, I think you probably went out on the Nylander one because, I mean, I'm not even going to say it, but Ehlers obviously injured. Dylan Larkin at 15. Sonny Milano, Travis Sanheim, Alex Tuck. Okay. Like, you're not taking any of these guys. The only other one that you're going to look at and say, yeah, that one could have gone differently, now looking at it, is Pasternak, who goes at 25 to Boston. But it's very clear that that was just who he was, how he was identified. So I don't think that the Nylander pick was bad. I get it from leadership if that's the point, but not from how they play. Another super chat here. Michael says, significant error occurred when after 4 consecutive unsuccessful playoffs, the decision was made to retain core 4 of this choice and not trading 16 during the summer. 16 is often the guy that gets pointed at, for sure. I would probably agree. I think that a shakeup needed to be made. It's just hard. Like, you probably had to look at it then and say, before the Riley contract was signed, you're like, okay, is Riley going to be the guy? Because Tavares can't be. I don't think that you trade Matthews at that with the goal scoring that he produces and how consistent he is for a goals perspective, like how important, how valuable goals are to a game and actually being able to win. Truthfully, like, regardless of success, no success, that's the guy you just cannot and should not be trading with the goals. So then you kind of look at Tavares, who can't move. So now it's between Marner, Nylander, and Riley. And you're kind of going, okay, can we upgrade on Riley defensively? If not, this decor just automatically gets worse if you don't upgrade on him. So I can see why that becomes the piece that you keep. You look up front and you say, we've got a lot of the same things. We've got a lot of skilled small forwards, fast forwards. You got a lot of guys who can put up points. Do you have guys who can do the other aspects? That's probably where you have to look at and consider making a change on a forward standpoint. Can you get rid of one of these guys, Nylander or Marner? Honestly, in hindsight, you could probably look at either one of them and find a way to make some type of trade with some team where you can upgrade on them. Maybe you can bring in that guy on defense. Maybe you can bring in another Morgan Riley type who drastically now improves and increases your defensive output and the offense that you get from your defense. Maybe those things can be taken to the next level there. I would agree. I think a shakeup needed to happen because the other thing is not necessarily just... The other thing is this is not like, this is not about how the team is constructed from a points obtaining perspective. This is, how does the team perform when it matters the most? Are they a playoff team? Are they a team that has grit, that can push back, that can fight through things, they can face adversity? So far, they've showed that they can't be. And they struggle to take it to the next level when it comes to playoffs. They just have. They're missing that extra gear that it takes to be a successful team in the long term and find a way to get on and start winning playoff series. It's amazing to put up personal records in the regular season. It's amazing to set franchise records for points scored and how many players score double-digit goals and how many players score 20 goals and how many players get so many points. That's fun. It's fun to watch during the regular season. But then at some point, this is where I get to the disagreements with someone like 6 1/3 who comes here and talks about this. And they're like, oh, well, I'm so happy because Mitchie scored his 600th point. It's like, okay, I get it. But like, that's cool when you're also having success. Like at this point where you're not, you know that you're going to go into the playoffs and you're just going to lose in the first round. It's like, who the fuck cares anymore? Like this isn't fun to have that happen. Like it is cool to watch and you can't take it for granted as it's going on. But the point is, I sit here and I know that this team's just going to lose in the playoffs. So how, like, what part of this is enjoyable? Because it's like we're watching and rewarding guys for doing these things that don't really mean anything when it matters the most. You're missing that piece, that connection. I feel like we're at a breaking point with this Leafs team where you're just getting fans who are just getting so fed up with celebrating these records and these personal accomplishments because you watch the team do this now. It's like you're putting on these performances and putting out these records and personal accomplishments when you're still losing games. You're one game above 500. You're barely holding on to a playoff spot. You're farther and farther away from Florida and from Boston. Like, it feels like every single time you play, because you get 1 point, they get 2. You get 0 points, they get 2. You get 0 points, they get 1. Like, they find ways to do it. The Leafs team doesn't. They just cannot find ways to get these wins in games that they needed to. We were all excited about the idea that they went into that West Coast trip. They beat LA in a very, very good game. Then you go into the Anaheim game on a back-to-back. That's typically a crumble spot. They didn't. They find a way to win. That's great. Then you go to the game. Against San Jose, and it's like, okay, this is also a crumble spot. They don't. That's great. Now you come home. You play San Jose. Crumble spot. They don't. You're on a heater now. And then people are like, oh, well, they won 4 in a row. Why are you upset that they lost to the Islanders? It's like, well, There's nothing to say that you're not allowed to win 5 in a row, or 6, or 7, or 8, or 9. There's nothing to say that you can't do that. So why not? Why can't you just continue to win? Why can't you show up and put on a performance and not blow a 3-1 lead? Why can't you show up and not blow a 3-0 lead or a 2-0 lead? Why can't you do that? Why can't you string together wins, string together points, and find a way to be an actual consistent team that can be respected and trusted, and fans can look at you and say, you know what, at the end of the day, even though we lost this game, I feel like they put forth an effort. They just don't. They just don't. They can't find a way to do it for 60 minutes. They can't get things together. They cannot at all be like an intense team that hates losing. They just can't do it, and I don't get it. I don't get it. We have some super chats here. I want to get to these. Planning for Robertson, Sandin, and Michael super chat. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it for the super chats. Appreciate everyone who's super chatted here tonight. It does not go unnoticed, so thank you guys very much. It really does mean a lot, the fact that you guys do this while I sit here and just my brain breaks about this Leafs team. Thank you guys very much. Michael says, planning for Robertson, Sandin, and Liljegren as up and coming is now too late to rectify these mistakes. It appears that waiting for another 2 years may be necessary in order to rebuild and reshape the team. Michael, you can't wait. Like, you can't wait and do this rebuild. Like, you have to find a way now to make this team better right now. You just have to. You cannot afford to be waiting 2 years, because you know what's going to happen 2 years from now? We're all going to start having the conversation about Matthew's contract coming back up. Nylander, like, where's Marner's gonna be in 2 years from now? Where's Tavares gonna be? What's Riley's contract like at that point? Are you gonna be looking at an issue with Matthew Nyes re-upping? Like, you're gonna have all of these issues. You have a chance right now where you could probably get rid of Samsonov and just rely on Joseph Woll and Martin Jones. You can save an extra $3 million there. Like, you can't. How do you wait? Do you know what I'm saying? You know how pathetic that is to be like, well, this team that we're paying all this money to, we have to now wait to rebuild this. What is that? What do you know? That's embarrassing to have that happen. You cannot do that. And as far as like Robertson, Sandin, Liljegren's a good NHL player. The team, at like how they play defensively, isn't brutal. They just fall asleep. And it's like, you can't have those moments where you just have brain farts that give up these massive goals, these massive momentum-shifting goals, game-changing goals that happen. Like, you cannot be doing that. You can't. Sandin, they got a pick, and Gustafsson, he wasn't playing that much here. Keefe obviously didn't like him. Move on. You haven't really heard much about him in Washington this year. Liljegren is fine to me. Robertson, clearly, it hasn't worked that well. He's dealt with some injuries, but like, he's playing at least, I guess. So that's a bonus. And Donnie, I would agree. I would disagree, excuse me. Liljegren is an NHL player, and he's a pretty good one at that. I would disagree. I'm trying to find who they drafted with that pick. I would disagree. I think he's a good player. Lilligan. Okay. Another super chat here. And I saw someone say there's other people chatting other than Michael. I know. I'm reading them. If you super chat though, then I read your messages. I read every single super chat. I'll never miss the super chats. I'm not going to ask people to send money, but like I read every super chat. Other than the super chats, I try to intermingle with the chat as it's going along. You guys get buzzing in there. I try. I appreciate you all for going and ripping in there. I do, and I do try to get with it. But yeah, I don't miss super chats. I just don't. Super chat here. I got to get another one. All right. Max, thank you for the super chat as well. I appreciate that. Max says, Keefe and Sheldon Keefe are trending on Twitter right now. LOL. Dude, yeah, I'm looking at this right now. I see it. I think that's fair. He should be. He should be trending. Look, I don't think he should have been brought back. In the summer, I said you have to make a change. It's either the four or it's either one of the four, the core four, or it's got to be Sheldon Keefe. I thought it should have been Sheldon. I thought it should have been one of the four a while ago. I think it got a lot harder as it went along for you to do something here now. I don't know how you kind of make that trade, because now are you going to make a desperation trade with guys on expiring contracts? You had Matthews you had to deal with. You had Nylander you had to deal with. You have Tavares who can't be moved. You had Marner that you were going to be pressed up against it with, where that one day it turns and it hits and it turns into a no move clause. Really hard to handle there. So I also think it's hard for True Living to come in and just like immediately make that change. I also see GSM there saying blame the coach when it's the lazy player's fault. I don't disagree with you. I think that there was other things that could have and probably should have happened ahead of time. They didn't. They're probably really hard to do, so I understand that. But now you're at a point where it's like it's just the same thing night in, night out. It's where you're just watching the same reactions, the same responses, the same care, the same interest in everything that goes on, and you never get to a point where you see a level of intensity change or a switch flipped or things get taken up. Like you see it every now and then, but it's not consistent. And who's going to be the person who holds things accountable for that? You finally have it here tonight, but this is what, 4 or 5 years into Keefe's tenure here in Toronto, and feels like for the first time he's actually made some type of statement with sitting guys or moving guys down the lineup or responding to things. I don't know. I don't know. I think that this for me is like, how much further, this is the problem, how much further do you actually get here? How much further do you let yourself get as a team where you are going to now be like, oh, well, we've lost 6 games in a row now, Keefe, you got to go. What if they go 1-5 here over the next 5 games? You've lost 3, you win Tuesday night, and then you lose on to Calgary on Thursday. Now is it time to make a change? Now is it time to bring somebody else in? Who do you bring in? I think a guy like Craig Berube, probably pretty good. He's a guy that stepped in there in St. Louis, helped them. He was a player. He was a legit player. He was a tough player. He's a guy that guys clearly respond to. He's hard on guys in the room. They seemed pretty pissed in St. Louis about the fact that he was gone. Like they did it because they looked at that locker room and said, we got to make a change. Maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's the guy who comes in here. Maybe he's the guy who, when Marner does a flip pass in his own zone that gets picked off and goes back the other way, he says, Mitch, you can't fucking do that. Sit down. Marner or Matthews takes a shift off, Doesn't finish a check on the forecheck. He says, Matthews, we need you doing all these things, because if you don't do it, then the other guys on the team won't do it. And until you do it, then this team will have no shot at winning in the playoffs. This team will have no shot at taking a step forward and actually going on to win a Stanley Cup. Matthews, sit down. Tavares, sit down. Like, maybe he's the guy who will do that and hold guys accountable for things. And it's not holding guys accountable to show even the fourth line guys to do that. It's maybe holding guys accountable to say, you know what, you got to do this. Maybe he's the guy who comes in here and he says, Marner, you got to sit down, and Marner cries about it, and he says, you know what, I don't care, because Keefe goes back in the media the next day and he apologizes for the fact that he said that, and it's because, oh, you can't handle Mitchie like that, you got to put the kid gloves on. Fuck that. He makes $10.93 million. He's in his 8th season in the NHL. I'm tired of the kid gloves. Stop acting like that. Stop handling these players with these little kitty gloves where you act like they just can't. They can't be. They can't deal with consequences. That's what I don't understand. Why? Why can't you have that? Why can you not give consequences to guys who don't perform when you're paid to perform, by the way, in case anyone was wondering? All right. We're about hour 20 in here. Probably wrap up soon. I'm going to do a final push. We're 20 likes away from 150. I would appreciate if we could get there. We got 250 people watching. We did hit up to 270 here tonight. I think 330 might be the record we've had on a stream. So not quite there, but still good enough numbers. I appreciate everyone who watched here. It's kind of fun trying to get these records, you know? Like, how close can we get to 400, 500 people on the stream? That's where I want to get. I want to blow this thing up. Let's get 1,000 people watching at a time. But we can only do that if you guys like the stream, if you guys subscribe to the channel, and you turn on notifications. Because the other thing that you guys are forgetting is, if we do a watch along, or if this starts late or it starts early, whatever it is, you gotta have notifications on so you get notified as soon as I go live. Because then you see, oh, third man in has now gone live. Leafs versus Red Wings post-game, Game 41 reaction. You're going to turn it on, click into that, and it's easy. It's right there. You don't even have to remember, because YouTube will tell you. YouTube will tell you that I'm live and that you got to come here to watch. So hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. I appreciate everyone doing that. But then you don't miss it, and other people don't miss it, because everyone comes in, joins into the show, and now we're up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people watching. Maybe that's where we get to. I appreciate everyone who supports, but I want to grow this thing and become the biggest Leafs YouTube channel out there. So hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. We got 2 things we're going to get to. I do want to see everyone else send theirs in as well. You guys know how this goes. If you're new here to the channel, if you're new to my streams, if you're new to whatever, let's get into it. First and foremost, let's do our play of the game. All right, play of the game. Let's get to it. Also, super chat here. There was no message sent, but there's a super chat from Jetski D23. Jetski, thank you for the super chat. Message retracted. I don't know what you said. It didn't come through here for me. It just says message retracted, but there was a super chat sent. So thank you, Jetski, for the super chat. Play of the game for me, send yours in the chat as well. I want to see what everyone else says. But play of the game for me is going to be the Marner goal. It was beautiful patience by Marner, waiting for Bertuzzi coming on and off the bench, coming into the slot. You find the guy as he's coming in. You find him a high slot, and then he has the awareness and the patience and the hands on him to be able to fake the shot, draw goalie over, draw defender's eyes all across, and then Marner slips into that little space where he's open in there and is able to get his stick on the ice. Bertuzzi slips a beautiful tape-to-tape pass back across to him. He taps it in. That's my play of the game. I think it's incredible. I think it's a perfect play. It's highlight reel, but it's also it's just fun. It's a fun play to watch, and it was just cool awareness. I'm happy to see Bertuzzi get that success. And the other thing here is, for those of you fucking goobers out there who are talking about, it didn't work, you changed the lines, what the hell was that then? Because Marta goes down to the third line, he scores a goal here tonight. Pontus Holmberg goes up to the first line, he scores a goal. So I don't know what the fuck game you were watching, but either you were drunk or watching a different one than the rest of us, because it seemed to work for those lines. It just felt like it wasn't consistent throughout the entire game. And I feel like there was other lapses within this that led to that. So in terms of making the wrong decision about changing lines, if that's actually what you think, and you're pissed off about accountability, okay, if you're pissed off about line changes, fair enough. But if you're pissed off about accountability for sending Marner down, then you're a donkey. That's straight up. I can't get past that. That's my play of the game. My honorable mention here tonight is going to go to the Holmberg goal. That, in terms of just good, smart hockey plays, it's top tier. Like, Holmberg gets in on the forecheck. They slowed it down and showed it on the replay, right? He does a little shoulder check. He knows where Matthews is coming in. So as he goes down, he knows he's got that support coming in. He leaves the puck for Matthews there coming into the corner. And then Holmberg continues around outside the net, finds himself into the high slot, into an open spot. Riley, who's had an incredible year, he deserves to be an all-star. Congratulations to him. He gets a shot pass through. Holmberg tips it into the net. It goes. Like, that is just, that's chef's kiss. Like, that's a beautiful play. That's a good hockey play. And then the other one would be the Samsonov save. He made two. There was one that he made sliding across. He made it with his legs. It was kind of on a backdoor play. It was in the second period. And then the final one is the late one. Who was it? Comfer, I think, was it? Was it Comfer? Who gets it backdoor. And with a couple minutes left, it sparks the Sammy chance. It sparks that, gets the crowd going, gets people fired up. So, yeah. Jetski, I didn't have much to say, just supporting the homie. Jetski, appreciate that. Thank you very much, brother. Sammy saving the chance after would have been nice without the giveaway and goal. Yeah. Fuck, yeah. It would have been. That was the one thing. It was like, that felt so shitty to see that happen, because you got the Sammy chance. They're talking about it on the broadcast, how good he must feel, like how fired up he must be, how fired up everyone in the building is. Like, that's got to feel good for him. 100%. He deserved it. But then it's just like to be followed up with like 30 seconds later, that giveaway and the goal in the back of your net. That stinks. It stinks. 10 more likes to 150. Please hit that like button. If you're watching right now and you haven't already, please hit that like button. Guys, we got one more thing to get to here tonight before we can end this stream. If you know, you know. If you've been here, you know what's coming up. I want to see yours in the chat. I want to see where you guys are at. People were pretty on par with where I was last night. So let's see where everyone else is at for your grades of the game.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right. I think my grade here tonight is God. I think my grade here tonight is going to be a D+. Actually, yeah, I'll go C-. C-. It wasn't a terrible game. It's just like, you're supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender and you're not showing up. Like, you're supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender and you don't. You don't. I get it's 3 games in 4 nights. I get that, and people like were talking to me about that. I saw it, and people saying, "Oh, you can see it really coming through." Blah blah blah. Detroit Guys, Detroit had to have this game pushed back from 7 to 7:30 and then to 8 because they were late getting into Toronto. Their flight was delayed. They were delayed for weather. They didn't show up to the arena. I know for fact they didn't show up to the arena until approximately an hour and a half before the game. They didn't have a warm-up. They didn't have a proper skate around. Like, they didn't have any of this stuff. Like, they had an on-ice warm-up for sure, but they didn't have, like, your proper off-ice. They didn't get their meals in and everything. Like, this was an unprepared game from that standpoint. You had, as the Leafs, an opportunity here to just shut down the Red Wings. Like, you had a chance to say, you know what? You had fucked up travel. You had a tough time getting in. The Red Wings played last night against the Kings. You could have just found a way to get it done. Like, you should have, because you took a lead and you blew it. And you blew it for the third consecutive game where you've blown leads here now. I don't get this. I don't get how this team continues to fall off like this. I think that's a pathetic excuse. I just am not there with it. And this is really, really, really starting to get frustrating to watch this team just know, like, you're going to lose in the first round. And even people are wondering if you're going to make the playoffs. I don't know. We got a couple super chats here before we close this one out. First and foremost, Max NTS Decimus with the super chat. Max, thank you for the super chats. As always, thank you guys. Max says, if Jones is in net, first goal doesn't go in. Maybe. Yeah, Jones has had a little bit... Jones has had a little bit of a rougher go over the last, like, couple of games, but he still hasn't been bad. There's been a couple goals that weren't that great, but that first one, yeah, it wasn't really pretty. It was from a low angle, and it beats him on the glove. Like, it's not great there. I cannot deny that. Another super chat here. Michael, thank you again for the super chat. Michael says, Zach, you agree the core four had no killer instincts, 16 and 91 have no trade, have no cap spaces. Now, what other option then? Wait, mate. I don't know what to tell you, Michael. Like, what do you do then with those guys? You just let them walk? You don't get assets back in return? Like, I think you have to make trades. I think you have to try to do something, and I think you have to do it sooner than later, because you're just going to waste another season. You're going to waste now 8 years of these guys being here if this is, oh, well, let's just rebuild. Like, this is not a rebuild team. And this is not a rebuild team with the money that you're paying those top guys. Yeah, you need other pieces in here. You need to improve on certain spots, certain positions, certain players, whatever. But, like, this is not a rebuild team. It's just not. I don't know. I feel like they don't have killer instincts as well. 6 1/3 says, this playoffs, all that 0 for 10 cloud is gone. You won one round. I don't know what to tell you. Guys, I think that's going to do it for tonight's stream. If you did enjoy the stream, before you leave here, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications so you get notified every single time that we go live here on this channel. You don't want to miss post-game streams. You don't want to miss videos that come out. Potentially, we'll have a Sheldon Keefe firing here. He's trending on Twitter. It's not been pretty for this team over the last little while. Yeah, it's tough. Also, There's another super chat here. Wittig57. Thank you. Enjoyed the stream. Even as a Wings fan, best of luck on the rest of the season. Personally, I think Keefe should be gone. Wittig, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate that. Everyone from any fan base is always welcome in here. We've got people who are trolling. It is what it is. But Wittig, thank you very much for the support there. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate that. And best of luck to you on the rest of the season. But we do have another super chat here, so I got to get to that. Michael, do you ask 91 and 16 to remove the no trade? 91, no. Like, you're not getting rid of him. You're just not. He's going to be 35 years old. You're not trading him, and you're not trading him for anything of value. So what are you going to do? Who cares at that point? Like, you just let it be. You just let it be. You have to leave it. You have to leave. Like, you could ask Marner to give the list of 6 teams. Michael saying there, and it makes sense. But I think the way you approach that is like, what do you want to get paid? When he walks in that office and he says, I want to get paid $15 million because we know he's going to ask for a lot of money, you just kind of have to, at that point, turn and say, like, all right, give me your teams. And then that's it. You make that trade. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't think you ask 91. I just don't know what you do there. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here tonight. That's going to be it. We'll wrap up this stream there. That's game 41 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season here tonight, losing to the Detroit Red Wings 4-2. 4-2, you're up 2-1. You blow the lead. Fourth goal, obviously an empty netter, but nonetheless, you blow the lead. You've now lost 3 in a row. You've lost 3 in a row that you've blown leads. You're 1 game above 500 here. You're 21-12-8. You're just holding on to a playoff spot by 1 point there. It's tough. It's tough scenes out here for the Leafs, for their fans. But I do appreciate everyone who tuned in. I appreciate everyone who continues to show support to myself, to the channel. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks to all the new viewers here tonight. This has been post-game stream for game number 41 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season. Thank you all for the support very much. Leafs lose this one 4-2. Look forward to seeing everyone back here on Tuesday night after the game against the Oilers. Until then, keep Leafs.